Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really try to get under the skin of your source material, pull out those key nuggets of knowledge, and, well, give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today we're diving deep into a true American classic, one that just keeps resonating. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. We're working directly from the Project Gutenberg ebook text. So our mission for this deep dive is to really explore that incredibly vibrant, but also kind of unsettling world Fitzgerald creates, especially in these opening chapters. We'll meet the main characters, get a handle on the novel's big conflicts, and sort of unpack how these very first pages really lay the foundation for this timeless story about, well, ambition, illusion, and the whole American experience. You know, what's really hiding beneath that glittering surface of the Roaring Twenties that Fitzgerald shows us so brilliantly.
It really is a journey, isn't it? Into a time of just massive change and often, pretty reckless behavior. What's so striking, I think, right from the get-go is how Fitzgerald builds these characters and settings that feel so specific to the Jazz Age, you know? But at the same time, they feel universal. They resonate. They give you this glimpse into human nature, both the hopeful parts and, well, the deeply flawed parts, too. And we'll look at how his actual writing, his prose, mirrors that dazzling but ultimately kind of fragile feeling of the era.
Okay, so let's start with our narrator, our guide through this dazzling and often, frankly, deceptive world, Nick Carraway. Right from the very first sentence, he sets himself up with this particular viewpoint, this philosophy. It sounds pretty admirable initially. He says he's inclined to reserve all judgments.
Right.
It's advice from his father. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. And you think, okay, that sounds like the perfect setup for an objective observer.
Right.
Open-minded, just get to record what happens.
Yeah, it sounds ideal, doesn't it? Like a really empathetic place to start. But what's so brilliant, I think, is how Fitzgerald immediately makes it more complicated. Nick himself tells us pretty quickly that this whole reserving judgments thing, well, it has its downsides. He says it opened up many curious natures to him, so people confided in him. But it also, and this is kind of funny, made him the victim of not a few veteran bores. He even mentions being unjustly accused of being a politician in college because he knew all these secret griefs of wild, unknown men.
Yeah.
So right away, you see his complex role. He's this privileged observer, yes, but he's also kind of reluctantly dragged into everything. He can't help but get involved.
That makes sense. He's not totally detached.
Not at all. And then almost immediately after saying how tolerant he is, he kind of undercuts it, you know, with this really revealing, almost, well, snobbish admission. He says, reserving judgments is a matter of infinite hope. Which sounds great. But then he adds, I am still a little afraid of missing something if I forget that. A sense of the fundamental decencies is parceled out unequally at birth. And he explicitly says his father suggested this snobbishly. And he's repeating it snobbishly.
Wow, okay. So he's aware of his own bias.
Exactly. That self-awareness is key. It tells us, the readers, that despite saying he's impartial, Nick sees everything through this specific lens of, like, inherited privilege. His hope is always kind of tinged with this cynicism about people and society. It's a masterstroke by Fitzgerald, showing the narrator's own subtle hypocrisies right there on page 1.
That's such a critical point. It really sets the tone for this world where, appearances and what people actually mean are often totally different things. So Nick's own journey then takes him east. It's the spring of 22. He's going to make his fortune, or at least try to, in the bond business. He leaves what he calls the ragged edge of the universe, the Midwest.
Yeah, sounds a bit dramatic.
He's drawn by that glitter, that promise of New York, and specifically Long Island. And you feel this sense of a fresh start for him, this feeling that life was beginning over again with the summer.
Right, that classic American feeling of heading east for opportunity.
Yeah, and he even buys like a dozen books on banking and finance, planning to really learn the secrets of wealth. He briefly thinks about becoming a well-rounded man, maybe reading some literature again.
He gives up on that pretty fast.
Yeah, calls it naive. His first few days are kind of lonely, trying to find his way. But then someone asks him for directions to West Egg, and suddenly he feels like a guide, a pathfinder, an original settler.
Ah, finding his place.
Exactly. It's that classic American thing, finding your identity in a new place, especially in that post-war boom time. He's stepping into this new era full of possibility, but as we'll see, full of dangers too.
And the landscape itself, you know, it's not just scenery, it's probably one of the most powerful symbols in the whole book. Fitzgerald is so precise about the geography. Long Island Sound has a pair of enormous eggs, identical in contour and separated only by a courtesy bay.
Right, the two eggs.
But the key is their dissimilarity in every particular except shape and size. They look the same, but they couldn't be more different socially, culturally.
Worlds apart, even though they're right next to each other.
Exactly. It's like Fitzgerald is mapping out the American dream, or maybe the different versions of it, right there in the geography.
It's really striking. And Nick's house fits right in. It's this small, almost funny, weather-beaten cardboard bungalow. Costs him $80 a month.
$80 compared to the mansions.
Right. He calls West Egg the less fashionable of the two. Maybe even bizarre and not a little sinister. And his little house is literally squeezed between these huge places. One of them is Gatsby's mansion, this colossal affair, an imitation of some French hotel, with a tower, ivy marble pool, 40 acres of lawn.
It's just immense.
Yeah. And Nick's there, he says, for the consoling proximity of millionaires. He's right on the edge, watching it all.
Exactly. And that immediate difference, that social geography, is so fundamental to the whole story. Across that little bay, you've got the white palaces of fashionable East Egg. That's where the Buchanans live. East Egg is old money, inherited wealth, families who've had it for generations. Their position is secure, unquestioned.
Right, the establishment.
They're the ones who set the rules, the tastes. There's this sort of quiet, maybe even arrogant confidence that comes from never having had to earn it.
Okay, and West Egg?
West Egg is the new money, the self-made millionaires, maybe, people who just got rich. And the East Eggers often look down on them, see them as maybe a bit crass, lacking refinement, not understanding the unspoken rules.
So more energy, but maybe less polish.
Yeah, kind of raw energy, big ambitions, but also maybe this underlying anxiety, this need to prove their wealth is real, that they belong. This whole contrast isn't just about place. It's about the different kinds of dreams, the costs, the prejudices of that time. It sets up the big clash between inherited privilege and that almost desperate pursuit of it.
That distinction is so important for what happens next. And speaking of the Buchanans, our first meeting with Tom Buchanan is pretty memorable. Nick paints this picture. Sturdy, straw-haired man of 30, supercilious manner, shining, arrogant eyes.
Physically imposing.
Very. He was this huge Yale football star, a national figure. But Nick notes his best moment was at 21, and everything since then has been kind of an anticlimax.
Peaked early.
Seems like it. His family is enormously wealthy. He even brought his string of polo ponies east from Chicago when they moved. Just transplanted his whole privileged life.
Doesn't sound like a subtle guy.
No. And Nick's observation about his body having enormous leverage, a cruel body that feels really ominous, and sadly it turns out to be true. He's basically a brute hiding behind money and status.
And what really shows his true colors, and frankly it's pretty disturbing, is that outburst he has at dinner almost immediately. He doesn't just have opinions, he kind of weaponizes them. He starts ranting that civilization's going to pieces.
Oh, right, the racist stuff.
Exactly. He gets obsessed with this book, The Rise of the Colored Empires, and starts spouting these theories about how the white race will be utterly submerged if we don't look out.
He presents it like it's factual, scientific.
Yeah, scientific stuff, he says. It's all been proved, and it's up to us, who are the dominant race, to watch out. It's really ugly, and it tells you so much about him, his bigotry, obviously, but also his deep fear of losing control, his insecurity, needing to assert dominance through these aggressive, baseless ideas.
It's chilling, and it reflects anxieties of that era, too, right?
Yeah, definitely. A certain segment of society reacting to change with fear and prejudice, dressed up as intellectualism. And just to be clear for our listeners, we're reporting what's in the text here, not endorsing these views in any way.
Of course. It paints a very vivid, very uncomfortable picture of Tom. And then there's Daisy, his wife. Her voice is the first thing Nick notices. It's captivating, but also kind of unsettling. He calls it low, thrilling, with a singing compulsion.
Like a siren's call, almost.
Yeah. And initially, she seems almost paralyzed with happiness, has this absurd, charming little laugh. But you quickly sense something underneath.
A performance.
Seems like it. Nick later says her voice is full of money. That's the unforgettable phrase, this inexhaustible charm that rises and falls, drawing you in. It promises everything, but maybe doesn't deliver much substance.
And that lack of substance, or maybe that deep cynicism, comes out so painfully clear in what she says about her daughter. Remember that. After her daughter Pammy is born, Daisy says, "I hope she'll be a fool." That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool.
Oof. Yeah, that line hits hard.
It's devastating, isn't it? It's not just a throwaway comment. It reveals so much about her understanding of women's roles then, especially in her circle. It suggests that maybe being unaware, being superficial, is the only way to survive the pain and the limitations that come with that kind of privileged but empty life.
Like she wishes her daughter could avoid the disillusionment she feels.
Exactly. It's like she's trapped in this gilded cage and sees ignorance as the only escape. And later, when she tells Nick, sophisticated God, I'm sophisticated, with that sort of sigh.
Yeah, Nick senses her basic insincerity.
Right. It reinforces that feeling of an elegant facade hiding deep unhappiness. She knows how to play the part, but it seems to have cost her something real.
Of a really tragic figure in her own way. And then the fourth person at that initial dinner party is Jordan Baker, the golfer. Nick first sees her just lying on the couch, completely motionless, almost like a statue in the middle of all this chatter. Later, we find out she's in training.
Disciplined. Maybe aloof.
Yeah, she seems quiet at first, very self-sufficient. Nick recognizes her face later from the society pages, the sports section.
Right, she has a public persona.
And her eyes are gray, sun-strained, looking back at him with this polite, reciprocal curiosity out of a wan, charming, discontented face. What do you make of her initial impression?
Well, that stillness, that completely motionless quality is interesting. Like Nick, she's an observer, maybe, but she seems to have this cynical detachment that Nick doesn't quite have yet. Her self-sufficiency might be more like a defense mechanism, a sign she's guarded, maybe a bit bored or weary of this whole scene.
Like she's seen it all before.
Exactly. And that discontented face suggests she shares some of Daisy's disillusionment, but maybe Jordan deals with it through apathy or carelessness, as we find out later. She's already mastered the art of appearing cool and independent.
Okay, so we've met the East Egg crowd, the established old money complex, maybe a little bit cynical,
Yep.
Tom, Daisy, Jordan. But across the bay, in West Egg, there's this other force, this even more mysterious figure building his own world, pulling everyone into this, well, this spectacle. Let's talk about Gatsby himself, or at least the legend around him, and those absolutely legendary parties. Before we even properly meet the guy, the scale of these things is just unbelievable.
Oh, totally.
Nick describes this constant whirl of moths among whisperings and the champagne and the stars. It sounds almost dreamlike, but also chaotic.
It's pure spectacle, pure excess. And Fitzgerald piles on the details to really overwhelm you with it. Remember the oranges and lemons? 5 crates arrive every week. They need a special machine just to juice them all.
The sheer quantity.
Exactly. And caterers bringing several hundred feet of canvas, enough colored lights to make a Christmas tree out of his huge garden, buffet tables groaning under glistening hors d'oeuvre, spiced baked hams, salads of harlequin designs, pastry pigs, turkeys bewitched to a dark gold.
It sounds insane.
It is. The bar is fully stocked with everything imaginable, including cordials so long forgotten, most guests wouldn't even recognize them. It's this picture of just overwhelming abundance, almost grotesque in its wastefulness.
Like the parties themselves are characters.
In a way, yeah. And then the morning after, 8 servants, including an extra gardener, spend all day cleaning up, repairing the ravages of the night before. It's like this constant cycle of illusion and cleanup. It hints at the emptiness underneath all the glitter, maybe, trying to erase the mess before the next show.
And the guests themselves are peculiar too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Nick says people were not invited. They went there.
Yeah, they just showed up.
They acted like they were at an amusement park. A lot of them apparently came and went without having met Gatsby at all, just drawn by the free booze and the spectacle.
An anonymous crowd.
Right. Which makes it interesting that Nick actually gets a formal invitation delivered by a chauffeur. Sets him apart. Suggests Gatsby specifically wants him there.
That's a key detail. But for most people, Gatsby is just this legend. And the rumors flying around are wild. People whisper he's a bootlegger, or he killed a man once.
The German spy theory.
Right. Or he's related to Kaiser Wilhelm. Someone else claims they grew up with him in Germany. It's all contradictory, all speculation.
It builds this myth around him before he even shows up.
Exactly. It reflects that era's fascination with mystery, with sudden, maybe shady wealth. He becomes this larger-than-life figure, this blank slate people project their fantasies onto.
Like the man in the library. Owl eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. He's amazed the books are real.
Absolutely real. Have pages and everything.
Yeah.
Expected them to be fake cardboard props.
It's perfect, right? Even the cynics assume it's all fake. It makes you wonder how much of Gatsby himself is real versus just an elaborate performance.
So when Nick finally meets him, It's almost anticlimactic at first. Gatsby just turns to him and says, simply, "I'm Gatsby."
Just appears out of the crowd.
Yeah. And Nick is struck by his smile, that rare smile with the quality of eternal reassurance in it, a smile that seems to understand you, believe in you, exactly as you want to be believed in.
It's incredibly charismatic.
Totally. But Nick also notes his elaborate formality of speech, which feels slightly off, like it just missed being absurd.
Practiced.
Maybe, like he's playing a part. Nick's initial impression of him as some person of undefined consequence kind of fades until Gatsby starts telling his life story.
Ah, yes, the story. Which sounds, well, pretty unbelievable. He tells Nick this whole rehearsed-sounding tale. Son of wealthy people in the Middle West, all dead now, educated at Oxford. It's a family tradition.
That Oxford part feels shaky even as he says it.
Yeah, Nick notes he hurried the phrase educated at Oxford or swallowed it or choked on it. Like the lie itself is physically hard to get out.
But then Gatsby claims he lived like a young Raja in Europe, collecting jewels, hunting big game.
Painting a lip.
Right. And then the war hero stuff. Leading his machine gun battalion, getting promoted, medals from every allied government, even Montenegro.
Little Montenegro, it sounds completely fabricated.
Nick is definitely skeptical. But then Gatsby pulls out the evidence.
Right, the props.
The medal from Montenegro, which looks real, and that photo of him in Oxford, Trinity Quad, cricket bat in hand.
Just enough proof to make you hesitate, to make the story seem plausible, at least for a moment.
It shows how carefully he's constructed this whole illusion, right down to the props.
Absolutely. It's all about building that facade. And you wonder what the real purpose is behind it all.
And then there are those mysterious phone calls he keeps getting.
Hints of the real business.
Chicago wants him on the wire. Philadelphia wants him on the phone. He even vaguely offers Nick a chance to make some money on the side, something confidential.
Doesn't want to involve Wolfsheim in it, though.
Right. It all hints at something shady, something potentially illegal going on behind the scenes, feeding those bootlegger rumors, always balancing between legitimate appearances and something darker. Very Prohibition era.
And this whole glittering world, the parties, the fake backstory, it stands in such stark, brutal contrast to that other place Fitzgerald shows us, the Valley of Ashes.
Oh yeah, that description is powerful.
This desolate area between West Egg and New York City, a small, foul river. Passengers on waiting trains can stare at the dismal scene.
A total wasteland.
Literally. Industrial decay, spiritual emptiness, the dumping ground for the waste produced by the city and the wealthy suburbs. This is where the underside of the American dream ends up.
And George Wilson's garage is right there.
Yeah, this unprosperous and bare garage, a small block of yellow brick just clinging to the edge of this wasteland. It's where dreams go to die, basically.
Overshadowed by that billboard.
The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, huge blue spectacled eyes on a faded billboard looking out over everything, like this forgotten commercial god watching the moral decay. It's incredibly eerie.
And George Wilson himself just seems defeated from the start. Nick describes him as a blonde, spiritless man, anemic, and faintly handsome. He's just stuck.
Yeah, hoping to sell that car to Tom, who just toys with him, treats him with contempt.
Threatens to take his business elsewhere.
Wilson is so vulnerable, and his later belief that those Eckelberg eyes are God sees everything, is just heartbreaking. He's desperately looking for some kind of meaning or justice in this bleak world. He's a victim waiting to happen.
And then there's Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress. She's the complete opposite of George in terms of energy.
Oh, absolutely. She bursts onto the scene, described as maybe faintly stout, but with this immediately perceptible vitality.
She completely ignores George when Tom shows up.
Walks right through her husband as if he were a ghost. It shows her contempt for him and her desperate attraction to Tom's power and money.
She says she married George thinking he was a gentleman.
Right, but then found out he had to borrow a suit for their wedding. That symbolized his failure in her eyes. He wasn't fit to lick my shoe.
So she's grasping for something better, something more.
Desperately. Her line, "You can't live forever," feels like this justification for grabbing at pleasure, at Tom, right now. It's a kind of dark, desperate version of that jazz-age hedonism. She's using what little she has, her vitality, her body, to try and climb out, and it's ultimately tragic.
And that desperation really comes through in that awful party scene in the New York apartment Tom keeps for her. Myrtle changes into this new dress, the brown-figured muslin that's maybe a bit too tight, trying to look sophisticated.
Performing wealth.
Yeah. And the apartment itself is crowded with a set of tapestried furniture entirely too large for it. It's trying too hard, looks gaudy, fake.
Like a bad stage set.
Exactly. And they buy that puppy on a whim. Just casual consumption.
The other guests aren't much better. Myrtle's sister, Catherine, tries to act worldly, and the McKees, the photographer, and his shrill, languid, handsome, and horrible wife. It's just this picture of shallow, grasping people trying to play a role.
And the whole thing just escalates, doesn't it? The drinking, the fake conversations.
Until it ends with that shocking moment of violence. Tom, furious that Myrtle keeps saying Daisy's name crossing that line, just hits her, a short, deft movement, and he broke her nose with his open hand.
It's so sudden, so brutal.
Absolutely. It just strips away any pretense. It shows Tom's explosive temper, his sense of ownership, especially over women he sees as beneath him. It's the raw violence under the surface of their supposedly sophisticated lives. That's the carelessness Nick talks about right there in plain sight.
So as the summer drags on, it gets hotter and hotter. And you feel that heat mirroring the tension building up between Gatsby, Daisy, and Tom. It all comes to a head in that stifling confrontation at the Plaza Hotel.
Yeah. The heat is oppressive. Fitzgerald really uses it to emphasize the pressure everyone's under. They're trapped in that large and stifling hotel suite.
Daisy seems almost frantic, doesn't she? Crying out, "What'll we do with ourselves this afternoon? And the day after that, and the next 30 years?
Oof. That's a cry from the soul, isn't it? That deep boredom, that sense of being trapped in her life. It's foreshadowing her inability to break free.
And then comes the moment, the point of no return.
When Daisy says it.
Right, she looks at Gatsby and says, "You always look so cool."
Mm-hmm.
Seems innocent enough, maybe.
But not in front of Tom. Not then. It's a direct confirmation of how she feels, and Tom gets it instantly. He's described as astounded, his mouth opened a little. He looks from Gatsby to Daisy like he's just recognized her.
The illusion shatters for him.
Completely. His control is slipping, his ownership is challenged, and he just loses it.
Yeah.
The polite facade starts cracking right there.
And he immediately goes on the attack, trying to expose Gatsby, tear him down. He mocks the Oxford story again, Oxford, New Mexico, trying to make Gatsby look like a fraud.
Gatsby stays pretty calm, though, explaining he was there for 5 months after the war, an army program.
But Tom doesn't care about the explanation. He goes for the jugular.
Yeah, the direct accusation. He calls Gatsby a bootlegger, says he runs those drugstores as a front with Wolfsham, trying to make him dirty, criminal in Daisy's eyes.
He's trying to destroy the romantic image.
Exactly. And Daisy gets caught in the crossfire. It's agonizing to watch her try to navigate this. She admits, "I did love him once, but I loved you too." She can't give Gatsby the total repudiation of her past that he wants.
That line, "Oh, you want too much," to Gatsby, that feels so crucial.
It is. "I love you now, isn't that enough? I can't help what's past." She's being pulled in two directions. The safe, familiar, albeit brutal reality with Tom versus this overwhelming, idealized dream Gatsby demands she fulfill.
And she can't do it. She can't erase Tom completely.
No. And Tom seizes on that. He sees her waver, and he wins. He calls Gatsby a common swindler, dismisses everything. That's the moment Nick sees the dead dream fighting on, but it's losing. Gatsby's illusion, built on rewriting the past, just can't hold up against the pressure of the present. It starts to collapse right there.
And Tom's final move, after he's basically won, is just dripping with contempt.
Oh, insisting Daisy drive home with Gatsby.
Yeah, in Gatsby's own car.
Yeah.
It's not kindness. Nick calls it magnanimous scorn.
It's pure humiliation. Asserting his dominance one last time, pushing Daisy back towards Gatsby now that he thinks the flirtation is over, rubbing it in.
He's so sure he's won, completely oblivious to what's about to happen.
Which leads directly to that horrific accident, the consequence of all this carelessness and emotional violence. Myrtle Wilson, distraught after Tom was there earlier and she likely argued with George, who locked her up, sees the yellow car coming.
Gatsby's car.
Yeah.
But she thinks it's Tom's car coming back for her.
We assume so, yeah. She runs out into the road, and the car hits her. Kills her instantly. Fitzgerald's description is brutal. Her left breast was swinging loose like a flap. Her mouth ripped. It's graphic, horrifying. Emphasizes the awful reality crashing into their careless games.
And the car just keeps going, the death car.
Doesn't stop. Leaves this nightmare scene behind. A terrible symbol of the hit-and-run nature of their lives, almost.
Tom's reaction when he arrives later is telling. His first thought, unbelievably, is that maybe now Wilson will have a little business at last.
God, that's cold. Even in the face of death, his mind goes to transactions.
But then he sees Wilson's grief, hears that hollow, wailing sound, And he immediately shifts into self-preservation mode.
Starts managing the narrative.
Exactly. He tells the police the car that hit her was yellow, emphasizes his car is blue, makes sure Nick confirms they just drove straight from New York, covering his tracks instantly.
Seamless deception. It's second nature to him.
And then Gatsby's confession to Nick later. It's heartbreaking in its own way.
Yeah, his misplaced chivalry.
He admits Daisy was driving. Yes, but of course I'll say I was.
He explained she was very nervous, lost control, couldn't face hitting Myrtle.
So he takes the blame. To protect her. To protect his dream of her.
It's this desperate, final act of devotion to his idealized Daisy. Completely misguided, obviously, because it seals his own fate, but it shows that core devotion he has. He thinks he can absorb the consequences, fixed everything.
While the real culprits retreat. That final image Nick sees. Tom and Daisy in their kitchen.
Yeah. Sitting opposite each other with a plate of cold-fried chicken between them and 2 bottles of ale.
Looks almost normal, domestic. But Nick sees them conspiring together.
Having retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness and let other people clean up the mess they had made.
While Gatsby is outside, standing there in the moonlight watching over nothing.
Yeah.
His vigil is pointless. The dream is dead.
It's such a stark contrast. The insulated rich, safe in their kitchen, and the dreamer left outside, alone, about to pay the price.
So, the morning after the accident, Gatsby is still clinging to this impossible hope. Refusing to leave, refusing to believe it's over.
Still watching the house, still hoping for a call from Daisy that will never come. It's almost pathetic, that desperate denial.
And it's in these final hours, as everything is falling apart, that he finally tells Nick the truth about his past, the real story behind Jay Gatsby.
Right, the illusion has broken up like glass against Tom's hard malice, as Nick puts it. So he reveals he was James Getz from North Dakota. He fell for Daisy years ago, before the war, but he admits he took her under false pretenses.
Let her believe he was from her world.
Exactly. That he belonged to the same strata, could take care of her. He was actually penniless then, without the right background, so he essentially invented Jay Gatsby to be worthy of her.
And she became his grail, the reason for everything he did.
But Daisy, she couldn't wait forever. Jordan tells Nick about the wedding eve. Daisy getting drunk, wanting to call it off after getting Tom's incredibly expensive pearl necklace.
$350,000.
Insane wealth. But the next day, she married Tom anyway, without so much as a shiver. She chose the security, the unquestionable practicality of money over whatever Gatsby represented then. Societal pressure, economic reality won out.
While Gatsby's pursuing his dream, George Wilson is spiraling into his own nightmare.
Yeah, consumed by grief and this thirst for revenge, he finds that dog leash.
The expensive one Tom bought for Myrtle's puppy.
Right. And it confirms his suspicion that Myrtle had a lover, someone wealthy. And in his grief-stricken state, he decides this lover must have been the one driving the car, must have killed her deliberately.
And he connects it to the eyes on the billboard.
He does. He starts seeing the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg as God's eyes. God sees everything. He tells the guy trying to help him, Michaelis, you may fool me, but you can't fool God. He thinks God will guide him to the killer.
It's this terrifying mix of grief, madness, and distorted faith.
And it leads him right to Gatsby. He tracks down the owner of the yellow car, finds Gatsby in his pool, finally taking a moment for himself, maybe still hoping Daisy will call, and Wilson shoots him, then shoots himself. The book calls it a holocaust, a brutal, senseless end driven by misdirected vengeance and fueled by the carelessness of others.
Gatsby, the great dreamer, destroyed by the grim reality he tried so hard to escape.
And the aftermath, the funeral, it's just devastatingly lonely.
All those hundreds, maybe thousands of party guests, nowhere to be seen.
Nope. Wolfsheim, his supposed mentor and business partner, refuses to come. Too risky to get mixed up in it. Business comes first.
And Klipspringer, the guy who basically lived there all summer,
Calls only because he left his tennis shoes behind. It just highlights how shallow all those connections were. Gatsby threw these huge parties, but he was utterly alone in the end. He was a spectacle, not a person, to most of them.
which makes his father showing up even more moving.
Henry C. Gatz, from Minnesota. Just this simple, helpless and dismayed old man, so proud of his son, even though he doesn't understand his world.
He carries that faded photo of Gatsby's mansion.
Yeah. And then he shows Nick that old book, Hop Along Cassidy, with young James Gatz's schedule written inside.
That schedule's incredible. Rise from bed 6 a.m., dumbbell exercise, study electricity, practice elocution, read improving books, save money, be better to parents.
It's amazing, isn't it? It reveals the real Gatsby, or rather the real James Gatz, this incredibly disciplined, ambitious kid. Pure, self-made man energy. Total embodiment of that old-fashioned American dream of self-improvement.
So different from the mysterious, sophisticated image he projected.
Completely. This is the engine behind it all, that raw ambition. And seeing that, you understand why Nick pays him that final compliment. They're a rotten crowd. You're worth the whole damn bunch put together.
Because Gatsby's dream, however flawed or based on illusion, had this core of pure, incorruptible striving behind it.
Exactly. Even if Nick disapproved of how Gatsby made his money, he respected the dream itself.
And Nick himself goes through a profound change. He decides he has to leave the East. He has that final, sharp conversation with Jordan. She calls him careless, too, like her, a bad driver.
Right. Throws his own words back at him, says she thought he was honest, that it was his secret pride.
It forces Nick to confront his own role, his own detachment. And he realizes, I'm 30, I'm 5 years too old to lie to myself and call it honor. He's shedding that naive observer role.
He's growing up facing uncomfortable truths, and his last encounter with Tom Buchanan just solidifies his disgust.
Tom tries to justify everything, claims Gatsby had it coming to him, repeats the lie that Gatsby ran Myrtle down like a dog, zero remorse.
And that's when Nick delivers that famous verdict. They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness and let other people clean up the mess they had made.
It's the perfect summary of their moral emptiness. Nick feels like he's talking to a child. They're completely insulated by their wealth, untouchable.
Which is why Nick has to leave. The East becomes haunted for him, distorted, like some grotesque painting. He longs for the Midwest again, for something he feels is more real, more grounded.
He realizes they were all Westerners, subtly unfit for the East Coast's cynical games. He wants to go back to something more decent.
And this whole personal journey, his disillusionment, leads him to those incredible final lines of the novel, where he connects Gatsby's specific dream to something much larger, much more universal about America.
Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us.
It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms further. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.
It gives me chills every time.
Me too. It captures that mix of hope and futility, doesn't it? The relentless chase for a dream, an idealized future that's always just out of reach because we're constantly being pulled back by the past. Like those early Dutch sailors seeing the fresh green breast of the New World, this continent of infinite promise. That same promise keeps receding, yet we keep chasing it. An illusion we can't resist.
Wow, what a journey back through that glittering, but ultimately so tragic, world of the Great Gatsby. From Nick's first impressions, trying to reserve judgment, all the way to that devastating ending and his final thoughts. This deep dive really shows Fitzgerald's mastery, doesn't it? How he wove together wealth, class, illusion, and this enduring question about the American dream.
It really does, and it leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about our own dreams. When do they become illusions? When does the pursuit of something become so overwhelming that it loses touch with reality? Gatsby chasing that green light daisy, yes, but also that lost past, that perfect future he imagined. It wasn't just about her in the end. It was about something bigger, something unattainable, a timeless warning, maybe, about the weight of our own ideals.
Definitely food for thought. We hope this deep dive into the Great Gatsby has given you, our listeners, a richer appreciation for its power and maybe sparked some new ideas. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. If you enjoyed digging into these nuggets of knowledge with us, please do subscribe for more insights and hopefully some surprising facts. Until next time, keep exploring your sources, keep asking questions, and keep finding those aha moments.